Dear managers, it's time to go back to school. What I mean by that is quite simply, it's time to start studying psychology. You know, all those books and classes you took in college that you didn't really want to be in and didn't pay a lot of attention in, like I didn't. I think it's time for you to start considering reading more books on psychology. Two of my favorites, Switch and Nudge, because they're kind of practical applications of psychological concepts. However, let me back up a little bit. Something that frustrates a lot of managers, for me at least, is when I'm like telling people, hey, this is the thing we gotta do, this is the direction we gotta go, and then you turn around and look behind you and no one's following you. And very often, the challenge is with you as a manager. You have to decide to go, well, hey, if nobody's doing the thing that I'm saying we should probably do, maybe I'm asking my team to do something that goes against their human nature. What I'm going to talk about today, quite simply, is the diffusion of responsibility effect, or the bystander effect. Let me give you an easy example speaking of college. Remember when you only had one roommate, how easy it was to figure out whose junk was whose? But once you got 5 or 6, all of a sudden, nobody knew whose crap it was in the sink? That is the diffusion of responsibility effect at play. And imagine now my company is going from a team of 5 to a team of 150. So what ends up happening is everybody thinks that that thing you said, someone else is gonna do. Let me give you an example of something that happens in our company all the time and how I hope our managers start to actually work on fixing it. So very often somebody will write internally that something was, that they saw something online or wherever and everybody chimes in, wow, that's really smart. And we say, someone should write a blog post on this. Using words like someone, hey guys, team, does not call out the individual. And let me remind you that what we have learned from the diffusion of responsibility effect is quite simply a lifesaver, which is if you're in a crowd of hundreds of people and you need somebody to call 911, if you yell up, somebody call 911, you're probably gonna freaking die. Whereas it's all, because everybody looks at each other like, well, who's gonna call? Am I gonna call? Are you gonna call? Should we call? But if you look somebody in the face and say, hey, you, I need you to call 911, you are much more likely to walk out of that life-threatening incident alive. Quite simply because you pointed at someone and said, I need you to do it. As a result, they couldn't diffuse the responsibility to other people. So when you take it back into the realm of what we as managers sometimes see in our teams, of, hey, well, why didn't you do this? Or why isn't the team doing this thing? Ask yourself, well, am I asking them to go against human nature? So like I said, when we send out these great posts internally and nobody really acts on posting it to the blog, it's because we're saying, somebody do it. And 149 somebodies are going, okay, well, somebody is going to do it. But they can diffuse that responsibility elsewhere. The other thing that's really important is to think of your sphere of influence. So if you're a manager, you don't run the whole freaking company, you run your team. So why would you say, hey everybody, somebody should write this blog post when you don't know anything about the vast majority of the company and how they use their time? But you do know how your team members are using their time. So let's say some great post comes out. Instead of saying, hey, somebody, you look at your team and go, okay, you on my team, I know that that client of ours actually is on vacation this week and we dialed back their project for the next 3 weeks. So you should have time to actually write this thing. Then it gets done. Quite simply. So you always want to be thinking, instead of shouting things out in a large and kind of growing organization, because back in the day, somebody did pick it up because you were a smaller group. There were fewer people to diffuse that responsibility to. Now, you've got to pick somebody out and look them in the face and say, you got this? And let's just say you go through your team and you can't get to the thing as a manager. Every manager in your organization should have a buddy that they go to that one other team where that person has a different sphere of influence to see if they can pass the baton through. So, my long-winded point here is quite simply, studying psychology helps to minimize your frustration. And to be honest, it's not fair for your team to be expecting them to do something that defies human nature. So where are you asking your team to do something like that and you're all frustrated about it when actually the solution lies with you?